Hello, it's Father Rich. I'm in the guest bedroom of the Rectory at Our Lady of Peace. I have my St. Patrick mitre on here that I've used in the past to sometimes bring St. Patrick to the school children. This is a statue. These are some of the statues in front of the bed. These were handmade by one of our parishioners, these pieces, but the statues on them, this is also St. Anthony of Padua, I believe. That's funny that I should know that. Or that could be St. Francis. I guess that is St. Francis. So the bottom line is that we see these two saints, and I think among them kind of are part of the what this masterpiece tries to address, the next one we're discussing. Kind of these, as they call these hagiographies, these saint stories that become kind of these pious legends that portray the saints as kind of otherworldly people that, you know, are almost not human. And so this next masterpiece called a book called Godric. It's a novel by Frederick Beuchner from 1981. He's an American author. It tells the story. And first of all, it's very unique in its presentation. They open up the first line of this whole chapter. 5 friends I had, and 2 of them snakes, tuned in fair weather. They were thick round as a man's arm, my bedmates and playfellows, keepers of my skimped hearth and hermit's heart. He writes in the fashion of a middle-aged author, and because he wants to try to authentically present the story about a Middle Ages monk whose name was Godric, and he was from England, and there were many pious legends about who he was. And so the story actually is written to as the saint, the novel, looking back on his life, kind of telling the reality of what really his life was like beyond some of the legends and the pious traditions that had come to be known. And so and they kind of talk about how it therefore gives kind of, the novel gives kind of the psychological realism about this complex and imperfect man, as they say, stubborn, fearful, lustful, and deceitful, who nonetheless stands as a witness of the grace of God. So he tries to kind of, this is a retelling to try to whitewash the legends, to give the reality of the story, to still see holiness in this life of this person, but yet in a more human, realistic way. And certainly that's been, you know, some of the efforts with the saints that we've found that we've had to do. And so much to the point that some of the saints were actually taken off of the universal calendar back in the 60s and 70s because there wasn't even clear way to reinforce the story of their life being based on a true person. Saints like Saint Christopher, Saint Valentine, for example. So, but this is a novel. It's written by a man who eventually became Presbyterian. He was born and raised in New York City in 1926, went on to Princeton, and the last year of his time in Princeton started writing, and it became evident that he was good enough that he could maybe sustain himself by writing. That book that he started at that time became a commercial success. It was called A Long Day's Dying. Got critical acclaim, but then they say that even as quickly, his next one, so this was in 1950, his next novel and book were a flop. So he was still trying to kind of figure things out, and then started attending this Presbyterian church, felt called to the Christian truth. I don't know that he got much exposure to it growing up, but, they do mention that when he was like 10, his dad committed suicide, and that had a big impact on him, and that kind of had him searching as well. So then he becomes I like what they talked about. There was the pastor there at this Presbyterian church. His name was Beuchner. He talked about this description of the coronation of Christ in the believer's heart, which is he described as taking place among confession and tears and great laughter, Beuchner decided that Christ deserved to be crowned in his own heart. So he actually then went on to seminary. He wanted to learn more about the Christian faith. Actually became a minister, but never officially was given a congregation to minister to, even though he was given that degree and that recognition. And really what they say is he ministered to people through his writing, and really saw that his writing as a way that he preached to others and brought them hope. They say that he published books over his career in a number of different genres. He had what he calls, along with Godric, he created the unforgettable tetralogy of novels about Leo Bebb, the ex-convict who started a diploma mill in order to ordain all comers to his Church of Holy Love, Inc. This rollicking, irreverent series gathered into one volume as the Book of Beeb in 1979. Other novels include The Final Beast in 1965, Brendan 1987, The Sons of Laughter 1993. So really, I've never been exposed to this writer, but interesting. He had a series of autobiographical books, beginning with The Sacred Journey, 1982, kind of talking about his own search for meaning and the twists and turns of his own story, and that became huge. And kind of this idea of there was much to be learned even through the ordinary, mundane circumstances of our lives, and he mined this vein with his autobiographical writings. So felt like that was significant, just finding God in the simple, seeing him in our own story. And so he really would encourage other people to share their story. And I think that is such a powerful way to witness, to tell others how God has worked in my life. And because that's something people can't deny, they can't take away from you. You say, this is my life and this is how God has worked in my life. It can be a very powerful way to share your faith with another. So Beuchner, I think we learned from him in that respect. Enjoyed learning more about him. So our next masterpiece will be number 71. It's Infidels, a recording by Bob Dylan. So hope you'll join me for that. Thank you for being here today. Have a great day and God bless.